Good morning. Welcome again to the Career Coaching Experience. I've got with me a returning host, Daniella Rinaldo. How are you this morning, Daniella?
I'm doing well. I'm a little bit tired. I had COVID last week, but I feel better. And yeah, I'm okay.
Excellent. Good. So where we left off on this, you're still at the crossroads of deciding what exactly you're going to do. We've been talking about maybe doing something entrepreneurial. We've been talking about trying to rescue your situation at your current place of employment. We even got as far the last time as to talk about putting together a resume. So we're getting ready to go to battle here, So we talked about performance review. You're going to try and get a meeting with your immediate supervisor. There were some questions about investors, questions about the stability of your firm. So I'm sure everyone's out there wondering, so what happened in the last couple of weeks? So I'm curious to know, what's the latest?
What is the latest? The latest is that after constant calls, emails, follow up, I have not been able to get a meeting to discuss a raise, a bonus, or potential to see whether or not I definitely will be trying to decide, oh man, is it worth for me to stay, or should I start looking elsewhere? And at this point, Rob, I think that I would be silly to not think that I have to move on. And so I've been working on my resume, and the resume could be a little bit challenging sometimes. I know that we'll be discussing a little bit about that, but no, I still have not met or to see which direction. Well, I know the direction I'm going in, but there wasn't a chance for me to, I think, even stay at this point, unfortunately, without telling the whole situation,
Yeah. So I think we're at the point now where you've got to leave, right?
I have to. And I feel so terrible because I know that at the end of the day, I have to look out for myself, but I am so empathetic for my team, but I can't just stay for my team, right?
Right.
You have to look for your best interest.
Right. So you did send me a resume. Right?
I did. The first one was crazy.
Yeah. Are you happy with that resume or what?
The first one that I sent, I wasn't happy with it. I kind of sent that because it was basically everything that I've ever done. And I know that I had to condense it. But my previous one, I was pretty happy with it.
Right.
I know that I did apply for my first interview and I sent over the resume, and I know that it was very time sensitive. So am I completely happy with it? No, I don't know how to make it better, to be very honest with you. So I hope I can learn and others will learn as well. But I felt that the resume targeted my experience in sync with what they're looking for.
Right. So I'm going to pull up your resume so other people can can look at this stuff. All right. So there's your resume. I'm just wondering here, you used the service, right?
I did, and I recommend it to everyone.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your service, like how that works.
The service? Oh, I thought you meant the how I did the resume.
The resume service. Yeah. Just kind of walk me through, do you go to a link and then you sign up for it and it helps you?
Yeah. So I went to the link, and I think it charged me like $2 to have it. To be able to upload the resume. But basically it starts with, it's so easy, right? To use. And so your name, your last name, all of your information, and then it kind of makes you work backwards. So basically it tells you to just pick the year that you've worked, like your first job, and then it asks you just to basically put bullet points as to what you have done.
Good.
And it made it very, very easy, because if you have trouble wording things, it actually helps you reword a sentence that doesn't sound so great into something more professional.
Is that right? So it
Yeah.
actually helps you do that.
It really helps you. And
my
I'm like,
God.
oh my gosh, I'm learning new vocabulary.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is a great word to use.
No, because there's a lot of artificial intelligence, AI involved in resume building, and there's even people that can help you write, like these bots that'll write, like cover letters for college admissions, and there's been a lot of stuff in the newspaper about this, so this is good.
Yeah, I really recommend it. It's an amazing link. Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So a couple of things about the resume. So a resume is like getting dressed up for a dance, or we keep using the example of a Manhattan nightclub where
Yeah.
they have the red velvet thing out front and they look at people, and the people that look cool and the people that are attractive, they usually get in first. The people that are showed up in a t-shirt and jeans, old pair of shoes, hadn't taken a shower in 2 weeks, those people are probably never going to get in. Even though they could be the most exciting people in the world, they're probably not going to get in. So a resume is the same thing. It's the first thing that a client will see. So I always counsel people, spend a lot of time and effort and even a little money sometimes in putting together
Oh yeah.
a big resume. But so I'll put it back on you then, because I'm not advising you, I'm coaching you. Okay. So,
Right.
So what do you think about this resume? I mean, are you happy with it? Can it be improved? I mean, what do you think?
I think it can definitely be improved. I have other years that I have worked and done different things like fashion, but sales and fashion managing, but I thought that it would be too much. It wouldn't really help me get through the door.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's room for improvement. I think that to obtain a position that will enable me to use strategic thinking, I think that there is a way to condense that, but I don't know how to without kind of being able to sell myself on the resume without me having an interview as of yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big challenge.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right. The top part can probably be condensed into like 3 sentences or something. Okay.
yes,
I'm going to make some notes here too. And then you got the work history, but one of the things I want to point out what about things that are not related to experience? I'm talking about skills. I'm talking about some of your passions, things you do outside of work,
my hobbies, I think I need to definitely.
hobbies, accomplishments, awards, certifications. Those are very, very important, particularly, it depends on the industry, but are certifications at all important in your line of work, like an HR certification or any type of a certification?
Absolutely. And I think that it's something that I need to add to just my career if I want to enhance and have a very good position. I think that I definitely, in fact, need to take another class. I need to get something to show for. And I guess that would be some sort of certification. And yeah, I mean, right now I'm kind of stuck, to be very honest with you.
Yes. So it brings up another point. So obviously, in order to put a certification on your resume, you have to have the certification.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
can't make that one up.
Yeah. So like people that are involved with project management, like there's a PMP, which is a difficult test, but my son has a PMP and he says that's worth an extra $10,000-$15,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these certifications, you have to invest the time more than the money, because the money is usually a couple $100, $500, maybe $200. Sometimes they're free, but it's an investment in time. So, this resume discussion will lead into other areas, but certifications on a resume are very, very important. And the reason is because the way human resources works now, maybe you have experience in this too, but if you're an HR person or a hiring authority and you're looking for somebody, you're typically going to do a search, either on LinkedIn or on a job board like Indeed or Monster.com. And how people search is they search on things like certifications. They search on things like position title, account manager, customer service rep, VP of sales, project manager, whatever the title is, a software cloud engineer. So they will search on that, but they'll also search on certifications. Like if they're looking for a project management person, they're going to search on PMP, and they'll get all the people with the PMP. So with regards to a resume, the more specific things you have on there that are pertinent to your industry, such as certifications, is extremely important, because otherwise you can be the greatest person out there since sliced bread, but if nobody can find you,
Right.
you don't exist. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So it's like Stephen King, he could have the greatest stories, but if he doesn't write them down, then nobody's ever going to read his books. So it's the same thing with a resume. So what are some certifications that you already have or could possibly get that wouldn't really take a lot of effort, that would sort of set you apart? It's something to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. In terms of certifications, I don't know how I would word that, but I've done certain things that would definitely can make me stand out in a resume. But you're it's different than an experience, right?
Exactly right. So you have the experience, you have great experience.
And sorry to cut you off, but that is my biggest challenge. And actually, I had a dinner last night, and it was with Nick and a couple of doctors, and they're like, "Oh, so you're a manager. Oh, maybe we can get you like a manager position." And Nick goes, No, you don't understand. When Daniella jumped into this opportunity, she ended up learning everything on her own. I mean, if I was going to this job and saying, "Oh, I'm definitely targeting HR," that would have been different. But I'm here doing the accounting, the human resources. I'm learning everything with the legal system, how to be compliant. I'm doing business development.
Right. So basically on this resume, so on this resume here, on the left-hand side in the blue area, do you see where it says skills? Okay. So you've got to have skills, and then there's also functional expertise, and there's also attributes. Okay. So let's take those separately.
Okay.
Because what you want to do is it's like you're dressing up. You want to have the right kind of jewelry, you want to have the right kind of shoes, you want to have the right kind of fabric, the right kind of styling. So a resume is kind of the same thing. There's certain areas that people will focus on in a resume, and one of those is going to be skills. Okay. So you've got some skills here. Like new business development is not a skill. Okay. A skill is like analytics, computer skills,
Right.
Interpersonal skills, communication skills, relationship building skills. Those are skills. Skills are kind of almost, skills is a cousin of talent, really. Skills are not experience. So experience is, I've worked in new business development. That's experience.
Right.
A skill would be spreadsheet skills, or phone skills, or interpersonal communication skills. Those are like skills. So you have to separate, analytical skills, details, and orientation. Organizational skills is another one. Okay. All right. So those are skills. You want to have probably like 5 of these things. Bilingual is a really good skill. Okay. Public speaking is a really good skill. Those are skills. Marketing is not a skill. Okay. You'd have to put that in a different category, which I'll get to in a second.
Okay.
Planning is a skill. Good planning and organizational skills. Detailed orientation. These are skills. Okay. All right. So now you want to put skills on the left side, and then you want to have something that has like functional expertise.
Okay.
Functional expertise is what you're talking about. you've done accounting, you've done HR, you've done operations, you've done sales. These are all functional expertise, okay? And
That's,
then you want to have, we'll go over all this later. I'm just kind of giving you
yeah, no, I love this. I'm
and
actually.
then you'll
writing-
have attributes, right? So attributes, hardworking, determined, creative, innovative, entrepreneurial. What would you say some of your attributes are? I think I know, but I want you to come up with this.
Definitely hardworking. Oh my gosh, this is like selling myself, right? I think one thing that makes me be able to succeed is I'm a true team leader. Would that be an attribute?
Absolutely.
And true team leader, team player.
How about like, are you creative? Are you
Very
innovative?
creative. Very
Very-
creative,
Okay, very creative, innovative,
innovative.
insightful.
Yeah. I'm trying to right now actually take a step back and put myself how I am at work, right? Just in
We don't have to
general.
come up with all these now, but I just want you to brainstorm a little bit. I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework, okay?
Yeah, no, yeah.
So you want to come up with, I would say, 5 attributes that you really feel strongly about. 5 attributes that you could go into an interview and really talk to those attributes, like determination or grit, okay? You would want to have a mini story behind all these attributes. In other words, the guy's going to look at the resume. Okay, well, I have a determined person, but tell me more. You'd have to talk about how you got into your existing company, and through determination alone, you basically willed yourself into learning everything about the job. You were determined to be successful. You were determined to like turn this place around. You were determined to do whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
On the innovative side, you have to be able to back that up. You have to say, I consider myself to be a very innovative person because I went into the company and I created new systems, new procedures. I changed the way they do business. I made them more efficient. I was innovative. I used my head. I was creative. So
Yeah.
all these attributes, I want you to come up with like 5 of these attributes. And then you've got functional expertise. Functional expertise, that's going to be marketing, operations, sales, project management, program management.
Okay.
Those are pretty much the functional areas of expertise. And whatever you've done, management is another one, leadership. Come up with probably, I would say, no more than 4 to 5 of those. So I would say 4 to 5 skills, 4 to 5 attributes, 4 to 5 functional areas of expertise. And then
Okay.
you line those up in the left-hand side there. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, when you sent me an example of a resume, it was unbelievable. And actually, at the beginning, I did have some of these like attributes and skills, but I thought, you know what, maybe that's something you don't put on a resume. That's when you go to the interview and then they start asking you. But you're so right. It's like, Daniella, before the interview, how are you selling yourself? How will you be that person that they're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm looking for?
Right. Your major objective is you want to get a seat at the table. Once you get a seat at the table, I'm telling you, and everybody that's watching this, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that you have a great personality. You have a presence. I've seen you in action, in person. All you've got to do is show up. All you
Yeah.
got to do is get the interview. Once you have the interview and you're in the person's office, you're probably going to get the job. I'm telling you right now, because I know how people make hiring decisions. They look at attributes. You've got the best attributes of most people. You got the determination, you're innovative, you're creative, resourceful, all those things. You got functional expertise across many areas: marketing, accounting, management, leadership, operations. You've got the functional expertise. So that's how I would work on this resume. And then once you do that on the left-hand side, the right-hand side will start to take a little bit more specific shape here, because all this is right here, the work history is experience that backs up everything on the left-hand side here.
Got it.
And then when you list your work history, you want to have as many quantitative measurements as possible. Like if you're in sales, increase sales by 13%. And you do have, you've got some good, you have some good bullets here. Spearhead in building the organizational structure, role, responsibility, staffing, increased employee retention by 50%. That's good. Saving the company 30 to 45% of payroll.
If not
These
more.
are the exact same things that you want on your resume. You want as many numbers on here as possible, because that's what people's eyes will gravitate towards that. And that's anybody could say, increase sales. All right, how much did you increase sales?
Right.
So, and then what you want to do is you want to, okay, so you've got this down here. So one of the things you'll have to do is, you've got some short stops here. This was so you were at Douglas Elliman for about a year.
Yeah, I
Next
did.
place, 3 years, this place, 2 years. So you'll have to come up with, an easily explainable reason why you made moves. It could be, I just got a big promotion. It could be the company went out of business, but you have to have well thought out reasons. It can't be, well, I was just
Yeah.
let go or something.
And before this, maybe I was wrong for taking off other years of my, experience where it was the fashion and sales. And then I ended up going into real estate completely, whether I started off as an assistant or doing some sales rentals. But I should actually put that in there, because before Douglas Elliman, I was at a company for 2.5 years, but it wasn't that I wanted to change the career. It was just that, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I ended up getting a better offer, and I was at a firm that ended up, I don't know, it was.
I would say this, okay? I'll ask you this question. So if you're in the, managerial side of the business in urgent care, and you're doing marketing operations, you're a business person now, you're a business operations manager. Does it really, is it really relevant if 15 years ago you were involved in fashion? I mean,
No.
right. So I would say that you have to account, employers want people to account for their time. So in other words, if you graduated from college in 2008, it's now been 14 years. It's because it's 2022 now. I mean, actually it's 2023.
Mhm.
So you have to account for those years. So what I recommend people do is list the experience that's relevant. And when I say relevant to the industry that you want to work in, and relevant to the things you have on the left-hand side, the skills, functional expertise, and the attributes. Okay. The whole thing has to tie in. So let's say from 2008 to 2012, you worked in the fashion industry as a model, let's say, okay. That's totally irrelevant. So
Yeah.
what I would do is I would put,
Not the case.
yeah, 2012 and prior, experience in another industry, or experience in the fashion industry experience, or something like that. And just leave it blank. You don't have to put the companies and all that kind of stuff. I counsel that for people to consider doing it that way, particularly if you're in a different industry and you've jumped around all over the place for 8 years. You don't want to show that on your resume. So if you've been like 6 places in 8 years in a different industry, I would just draw a line and just put prior experience in a different industry to
Okay.
2006 to 2008 to 2014 or something like that, and just leave it like one sentence.
Okay.
Just helps your resume a lot. And then the most relevant experience, 3 or 4 different places or something, then you can do bullets and all that kind of stuff, because otherwise it's irrelevant.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
is that the case with your resume now? Do you think you should add some more things, or do you think you should
I
cut this
definitely
off or
think
something?
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely thinks, I meant to say think. I definitely think that adding my prior experience, maybe it won't help me with the position that I really want, but I don't want to take away from it, because without that experience, I don't think I would be the person that I am.
Right.
And
It's ultimately a judgment call. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's ultimately going to be a judgment call, because the more stops you put in your resume, the more questions people are going to have, like, does this person jump around every 2 years or what? You know what I mean? And then you have to balance that against, well, I really want to put this experience in there because it's relevant. So, I mean, it's a balancing act. You just have to, for any time periods that you leave out of your resume, you have to, with a few exceptions, you have to list that on here so that people can follow your career. You just don't have to put every single one if it's a stop that's not relevant. That's all I'm
Okay.
saying.
And I have
That's
one
all.
question,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that others, if whoever's watching, it was always mentioned to me, you can have a very powerful resume, always try to keep it on one page. Is that true?
No, that's not true. I think that came out of something, some guy wrote a book in the 1940s or something, because present day, that makes no sense.
No.
It really depends upon how many years you've been working, what kind of experience you have, how relevant is the experience, but particularly since most people look at these resumes in digital form now. Very seldom is somebody going to open up an envelope. Okay, here's this resume. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen. That happened back when I was looking for a job back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
But now it's all digital. People get a resume in an email. You apply on a job board or something. You upload your file. So it's all keyword searches now. So I would just make it relevant, make it concise. I'd probably keep it to 2 pages. I think anything beyond 2 pages, people aren't going to read, but a page and a half is probably good. 2 pages is okay.
Yeah. And I also think, since it's real life, this is real talk right now, present, and that's a really big challenge to have a resume and to see, okay, well, you jumped from here to here. Why is she able to commit to a company? Or will she just, be here for a year and then leave and jump somewhere else? The truth is, though, and I think that this is something I wouldn't want to be afraid to say in an interview, or to anyone else out there, maybe someone out there that's like, oh, maybe she'll be great for our company. It's not that I wanted to jump around at all by any means. And even now, I don't think I would want to look for another position. I love what I do, but I don't have a choice. I'm not given a choice at this point. So it stinks, because it's like, okay, great. I love this job. I love my position. I love what I do, but I'm forced to leave. And that's, and I don't want to be judged by that off of a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's why you have to get the interview. Once you get in the interview, you could explain all that. But
Yeah.
that's precisely why you have to get in the door. That's why the resume is very, very important. If you go to my website, I've got a video on resumes.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones where I'm sitting on the beach in Abu Dhabi, but now this resume is extremely important. I think what I want to do is I want to wrap this up and just let my final thoughts on this is that you've got to start with the end in mind. And the end in mind on a resume is getting in the door. So just keep in mind that example I keep doing with the velvet ropes in Manhattan at the big nightclub. You got to get in to the nightclub.
Right.
So the resume is you got to get the interview. And what you do on the resume is, first of all, it's got to be 100% truthful. And so second of all, start out with the end in mind insofar as the resume is concerned, which is functional expertise, skills,
Mhm.
and attributes. You want to have no more than 4 or 5 of those. Once you line those up on the left side of the resume using this resume program,
Yeah.
who's ever reading this resume is immediately going to go to those areas and it's going to, oh, wow, well, this person has functional expertise in operations, marketing, accounting, sales. Wow, great. Look at these attributes: determination, innovative, resourcefulness, team player,
Yeah.
all those great attributes that people look for. And then you've got your skills, computer skills, spreadsheets, excellent public speaking, interpersonal skills, organizational skills, planning skills. So those are your skills. Once you organize those 3 on the left-hand side of your resume, you're golden, because then you know where the end is. Now what you do is on the work history part of your resume, then you start developing your bullet points. But just when you do your bullet points, keep in mind those things on the left-hand side of your resume in that far left column, the skills, the expertise, that's what your experience should reflect. And in your experience, as we discussed, you want to have quantitative measurements. How much did you save the company? How much did you increase employee retention? How much did you increase geographical coverage? How much did you increase sales? These are quantifiable, 13% and 18.2% dollar amounts. So once you have all those accomplishments, contained on your experience side that tie in with the left-hand side, you're good to go.
Okay.
And then you want to list any sort of, I don't want to say hobbies, but outside interests are really big. Like people
Right.
like to see people that are involved in competitive sports. You were a tennis player, right? I would put that.
Yeah, big tennis player.
Competitive tennis player,
Singer.
yeah. If you won any awards, if you won any championships, put that in there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Any certifications, you put that in there, because that also ties in with your attributes. Highly competitive, right? Well, there it is. You were a championship tennis player, you were a singer at Juilliard, you know what I mean? So that's huge. That should be in your resume. That's not even in there.
You know what's
These are
funny?
accomplishments.
My mom actually said that. She's like, why don't you have any of that in there? That's who you are. People,
Exactly.
yes, they'll look at what you've done, your experience, but you look boring. You look like you have nothing really, out there. Like, oh yeah, here's my resume. But she's like, tennis? Are you kidding me? People love to play tennis. But
So the bottom line is you have to have the what and the who covered in your resume, because it's been shown that people are usually hired for what they've done, but they're fired for who they are. Okay. If you think about that,
yeah,
people are hired for what they've done, but they're usually fired for who they are. So you've got to have the what in your resume. The who comes out during the interview. So the interview is a whole separate discussion that we'll have, because that's where you communicate who you are, because that's ultimately the final step. And we'll talk about that next time.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Definitely.
So let's get the resume finished. I'm going to give you some homework. Okay. So your
Yeah.
homework, if you choose to accept it, is come up with, let's say, 5 bullet points in those 3 areas:
Okay.
the functional expertise, skills, and attributes. And then I want you to put those on this resume. I want you to revise this resume. Okay. And add that to the resume. And then have another look at your work history again.
And see
And
if,
just make sure that the whole thing ties in. It's got to
Okay.
tie in. Okay.
okay.
And then the final thing on your resume, I think it looks good. Have somebody proofread this. And then think about, how you're going to present your experience previous to Douglas Element. Are you going to include it? Are you not going to include it? Are you going to put, not relevant from 2008 or 2012, however you want to handle that, but you should account for your work experience. And then any certifications, and then add on, I want to see accomplishments right before education should be the last thing.
Okay,
Before education, I would put accomplishments. And add some things about Juilliard, add some things about tennis, any sort of competitive sports.
okay,
And then any sort of outside interest
okay,
that you may have. Here's the reason why outside interests are important. For instance, if you put triathlete, I'm just giving that as an example, or workout warrior or something like this.
right,
You never know. The person that gets your resume could be looking at your resume and saying, "Oh wow, here's somebody else who likes to work out," or here's somebody else who is like, a triathlete. Because things like working out, health and fitness related things, that's big, because
yeah,
that tells somebody they're probably competitive. They probably have a lot of pride. They probably have a lot of self-respect. They're probably a squared away individual. They're probably not a 350-pound couch potato. Because
Yeah.
I don't see your picture. The other thing that I would really consider doing is, and some people have strong feelings about this one way or another. Now, particularly international people, international CVs, okay, international resumes almost always have a picture of the person.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I would highly recommend you do that,
Okay,
only because you're very presentable. It makes a big difference. People want, presentable, polished, professional looking people who care about the way they look. They want to hire those people,
right,
regardless of what anybody says. How you look and how you present yourself still means a lot to people. It's just a natural bias. People want to be around attractive people.
yeah,
They want to be around people who take pride in themselves. It's a huge thing.
I agree.
It could be the difference between getting an interview or not. And the other thing it does is it sets you apart. So if you're good with it, I would recommend actually that you put a professional picture in the top left of your resume.
Okay, definitely.
I think and then just move everything down. I'm not sure if that template allows you to do that, but I'm sure you can. So
No, you can.
I would just put that on there.
Okay,
And then that will separate you from a lot of people. And then you move everything down here and then add in the accomplishments. And then I think we're going to have just a kick-ass resume next week.
I know, I'm excited.
It'll be really, really good. You will get a lot, trust me on this, you will get a lot of interviews. You will make a lot more money. You will get a good position. Trust me on this, because the kind of garbage I get in terms of resumes from people is
Oh
just,
my gosh, I can't even imagine if I were to send you my resume now. You're like, no.
I'm not going to show you, because we're on YouTube here. I'm not going
Right.
to show you a resume I'm not going to show you the typical resumes that I get, but you would be shocked at the resumes I get from people that are making $150,000 a year that have been doing this for 25 years, insurance people. Okay. Because I'm an insurance recruiter.
Yeah.
I literally have to shake my head and think to myself, this is like a person going to the high school prom in a pair of Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt. How could they expect to get an interview?
I know.
They don't understand. A resume is a huge important part. So what we're going to do is we'll do the resume next week. Okay. We're going to go back over this thing, and then we're going to get into interviewing. Okay.
Okay,
Then I'll share with you some links.
okay,
Interview. Okay. So that's the plan. Is that
okay, I
good?
like it. I
Are
like
you on
it.
board with this? Because
I
it's
am
gonna be
so
your
on
plan.
board. I am so on board. And if anyone saw the little bit that you showed of the resume, and if anyone has any, opinions, please let me know.
There you go. If anybody has a job for Daniella,
Let me
there's
know.
your contact information on there.
Yeah,
Just let her know. Anyways, all right, so are we good to go for next week?
Yes, we're good to go. I'm excited. I wrote down everything I need to do, and once we get off here, I am going to start. So
Okay,
excited.
we will see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob.